Hello, my name is Dennis Schultz. I am the Executive Director of the Blacks in Technology Foundation. If you guys are joining us for the first time, Blacks in Technology is the largest nonprofit dedicated to the promotion of Black people in technology. We work with a number of organizations to provide training resources, mentorship, networking opportunities, and events like this, where we're going to be hearing all about what it takes to be an AI startup from our friends at NVIDIA. Introducing Matthias Saborinsky and Ozzy Johnson. Matthias, I'll let you introduce yourself and Ozzy, and I'll be quiet. Take it away.
Thanks, Dennis. First of all, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to tell our story and kind of be helpful from an NVIDIA perspective. So first of all, I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Ozzy, can you give me a thumbs up if you're seeing the NVIDIA Inception slide and the logo and all that? Awesome, thank you. So welcome everyone to this webinar covering the needs of AI and data science startup and how NVIDIA can be helpful. Before we start, Dennis, you shared a little bit, but I want to encourage all of you to ask questions, send questions over the chat feature as we're talking. I would love for this to be interactive and not just Ozzy and I talking nonstop and I'm boring every one of you. So please feel free to ask questions and we'll answer them as they get asked or whenever feels relevant. So my name is Matthias Saborinsky. I lead the NVIDIA Inception Program for the Americas, and we will cover shortly what NVIDIA Inception is. But before we do that, my colleague Ozzy Johnson is joining me. I'm very excited about that because he is way more technical than what I am, and also he has an impressive resume. So Ozzy, maybe you want to spend a couple minutes introducing yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try to be brief. So I've just recently started with NVIDIA. I'm here building out a solutions engineering team in support of the Inception program. Prior to coming to NVIDIA, I spent about the last 5 years growing a data science startup, Domino Data Lab, where we made a platform for data science. I joined that company when it was under 10 people. When I left, we were over 200. I wore just about every hat you could imagine in a growing company. So I definitely have I would say a load of shared experience and empathy for anyone who's on a similar journey and have a bunch of thoughts about how Inception can help with that. And hopefully my team specifically will be able to help anyone who does join and is looking for guidance, support, and sort of all the things that we want to offer here. Maybe briefly going back a bit further, have a pretty long history in technology. I have done just about everything you can imagine, from networking, running email, auth, security. Just prior to doing my first startup with Domino, I was actually working as part of the federal government under Obama as part of 18F, which was one of the programs similar to USDS, Presidential Innovation Fellows, where my big project was standing up what became cloud.gov. So essentially a platform as a service for the federal government. So really broad, consider myself a generalist, and am looking forward to offering really anything in the way of help today and in general for folks who do join Inception.
Awesome. Yes, and similar to Ozzy, my background is also in entrepreneurship and startups. I half jokingly say I'm a recovering entrepreneur. So before joining NVIDIA, I started a venture-backed company that was kind of like in the food tech space. So what you just said, Ozzy, of having a lot of empathy for the startup journey, that resonates with me as well. All right, so before we cover a little bit of what is Inception and how NVIDIA supports early stage companies, I like to cover maybe very briefly what NVIDIA does and how we see the role of NVIDIA in the overall kind of AI landscape. So NVIDIA stands at the intersection, so to speak, of two powerful forces. On one side, there's the accelerated computing, so everything that has to do with high performance computing, and on the other side, it's AI. And so the accelerated computing problems that normal computers can solve, those are the ones that NVIDIA computers solve. But the part that I want to stay with in this slide, it's the platform. So what do I mean by platform? I mean that NVIDIA has a combination of software and hardware solutions that are offered to developers and companies that are creating applications. So what that means in layman's terms, at least for me, is that no one buys an NVIDIA product because they're pretty, because they're nice. They're actually quite nice, but no one will buy them because of that. They will buy them because that product will accelerate their application, so make the application faster or make a workload cheaper. And so in the end, the way I think about NVIDIA is that we are only as good as whatever gets built on top of our platform. And that's the reason why startups are so important. Startups are the ones that innovate. Startups are the ones that are kind of like creating the future. And so if they're creating the future and creating the applications of the future, we want to partner with them, when they're kind of like, starting. So NVIDIA started, I always like to tell the story of NVIDIA started by tackling a very computationally intensive problem, which is rendering graphics and more precisely, video game graphics. So in order to render a video game graphic, you need to basically render each pixel at the same time. And so if you're rendering thousands of pixels at the same time, these are very parallel process. You need to render all the, do computation for all those pixels at the same time. And that's what I call a parallel process or parallel computing. And so the goal was always to tackle computationally intensive problems, and which started with one that was extremely challenging. But what we learned over time is that that same computationally intensive kind of like process that's parallel computing is also extremely useful for overall AI, and more specifically for machine learning and deep learning. So what you will learn today, and what kind of like where we focus, is on having a suite of solutions that tackle everything from training models for machine learning and deep learning to inference for those same models, so how you deploy those models, to also computation at the edge. And computation at the edge could be anything from a robot or a self-driving car and whatnot. What's also interesting to kind of learn about NVIDIA and how we tackle our different problems is, number one, we have a single architecture. So there's one chip, in a way, that is used for a lot of different industries and use cases. And on top of that kind of like architecture, that chip architecture, we have something that's called CUDA, which is application programming interface, right? Like it's a way to accelerate that chip. And then on top of that, we have a lot of SDKs, platforms, and overall software solutions that are optimized for each specific large market we serve. And what I mean by that is that the challenges that a healthcare company has are different than challenges that a gaming company has, or a robotics company has, and a transportation. So many of the things that you will see today are also related to helping developers in those specific industries. All right, so let's go a little bit to the early stage companies, so startups. So the answer to how NVIDIA helps and supports early stage companies is Inception. And the way I think about Inception is it's a platform, it's an acceleration platform that offers go-to-market support, expertise, and technology to companies doing interesting things in AI and data science. And that's kind of intentionally broad, so to speak, when I mean it's an acceleration platform, because no startup is created equal, and the challenges and the things that they need are different. So in a way, that's the same approach we tackle here. We want to support early stage companies working in AI and data science, and we have created a lot of different solutions or kind of like ways that we can help those companies. But as mental model or as a framework, I would think that the four main things we help companies are: number one, with expertise, and I'll cover a little bit what that means and what the Deep Learning Institute is. And that's one way that we support with expertise. The other one's technology assistance. So that's things from discounts on products to helping you figure out which product you should be using for your specific need. Third one is go-to-market support. So how do we tell your story to the world? And the last one is funding and kind of like access to the VC ecosystem. The way I will do this is a little bit by telling a few anecdotes of companies that we have helped, and this might kind of like trigger some questions or some different kind of like things that I can share about how we help companies. So one idea or one company that we have helped, it's called Voiceit. It's an Israel-based company, and they developed a proprietary speech-to-speech recognition AI that basically helps translate the speech of a person that is having a hard time, and suffering with a disability related to, verbally using their own voices. So with a company like that, which has an amazing story, it's a great way to show what AI can be done. Our CEO Jensen featured them in one of our GTC GPU Technology Conference keynotes. So that was watched by tens of thousands of people worldwide. So that's kind of like one example when I say go to market or how we tell a startup story. That's one example. So every time you tune in and you see a keynote from our CEO Jensen or anyone else in the leadership team, you will always see that we're talking about startups and kind of like referring interesting startups using our platform for good. Another example of a company that we have helped, it's called Malong Technologies. Malong is a company that is headquartered in the US and China. And basically they provide state-of-the-art computer vision for retailers. They provide a lot of different solutions for retailers, from cashierless checkouts to how to forecast inventory and things like that. So Malong is quite a mature startup. It's not, a 1-2 person company. And one of the things that happens when you're scaling your company is that you need to train all your new engineers, all your new technical people on AI and machine learning. And these not easy at all, and these are a challenge of many companies that are scaling. So we helped Malong figure out which courses they should take through DLI, right? So through our Deep Learning Institute. So let me talk a little bit more around Deep Learning Institute. So I like to say or to explain that DLI is our own Coursera, so to speak. It's a place where anyone can go and take different courses on different AI solutions or challenges or frameworks, anything from computer vision to AI applied to robotics, or something more detailed, like how to use one of our SDKs for a specific business challenge. Usually, Deep Learning Institute is a paid it's a paid program, but anyone that's part of Inception, so any startup that is an Inception member will get 200 credits for DLI for free. And when people ask me, okay, how much is 200 credits? And what I usually tell people is like, that's basically all you can eat. It's an all you can eat buffet. You're not going to be full with those two, or you will be more than full, so to speak, with the 200 credits. So there was a question there, is there a price for Deep Learning Institute? So the answer is for Inception members, and we can cover a little bit more what Inception members means later, but for Inception members, this is free. And it's not just theory, it's not just getting information, but we also provide GPUs on the cloud. So if you don't have a super powerful GPU with you, you can have a place where you can apply all these learnings that you get through DLI. Another example of how we support companies, and this is what I was referring to with access to hardware, is that an example is a company that's called MIS, and they developed a highly portable kind of device that creates a diagnosis for diabetes eye disease. And so one of the things that when MIS reached out to us, one of the big questions is like, okay, which GPU I should use for this specific problem I have. So we assigned a solutions architect to work with them to figure out what was the most efficient and effective kind of a GPU for their specific use case. And there's many ways that we can do this at scale, right? What I mean is that we have a lot of different tools for Inception members where either by self-service or by reaching out to us, we can advise on how to perform any AI operation they need. So, this is a slide that shows a little bit what's that suite of different products that are offered through to Inception members. So Inception members have access. Number one, they have many times early access to GPUs that have been just released to market, that many times there's no general availability. And number two, they have access to discounts on most of the GPUs. So the way I simplify it for people is that anything that is an enterprise grade GPU, anything that's a GPU that's used for deep learning, we usually have a discount. When it's, if someone reaches out to me and says, hey, I'm interested in a GPU to play Fortnite, that might not be kind of like what you will get through Inception, but anything that's more for a professional use for applying machine learning and deep learning, you will get a discount through the Inception program. Then another interesting benefit of Inception and how we support and help companies is that we have partnerships with a couple of the most important cloud service providers. One is Oracle for startups, and the other one's AWS. So through the Inception program, you have free credits to a lot of the different computation instances that Oracle and AWS offer. And so that's also I would say one of the most popular benefits that Inception members get. Ozzy, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'll point out about Inception, having sort of through my own journey building a startup, having used many different incubator programs from all over the place. Inception is one that I would say is very low friction, easy to sign up for, demands little of your time. With NVIDIA, we're I would say very giving about this, that we simply want to promote the use of GPUs. We want to see the creation of more GPU accelerated applications. And really anything we can do to support that ultimately is a benefit to those folks who are being helped and a benefit to NVIDIA. So if you are a startup or you work with one and you're not an Inception member, I would say absolutely sign up, low effort, low friction. lots of notable benefits. And as this slide speaks to, Inception is not limited to a specific stage in the life of a startup. If you're familiar with incubator programs, you may have seen things that are specifically targeted to folks who are in the seed stage, or they cut off once you get past Series A, or for a specific size. Within Inception, you can run all the way from a very early company, a few folks just starting out, up through what we describe here, when you become a premier member and maybe make the top list, which does offer some additional benefits, which I think Matthias can speak to. But the main takeaway, I'd say, no regrets to sign up, and a program that can help you through the entire life cycle of a company.
Awesome. Yeah, I think also you touched on something that it's super important that I realized that maybe I should have mentioned before, which is Inception is a free to join program. So we don't take any equity on the companies. You don't need to pay anything to join the program, which is filtered by, are you working on something that's related to accelerated computing, so data science, AI, high performance computing, and whatnot. And if the case is yes, you're welcome to apply, and we will welcome you into the program. So it's more of a program where we welcome anyone that is working on something that is relevant for AI and data science. And as Ozzy was saying, we have a couple of different tiers in the program. So this is more related to the maturity of the company. So once a company scales, their needs are different. The Malong example I gave before is a good one, right? Like when you need to train 100 engineers at the same time, it's a very different challenge than when you need to figure out what architecture, which framework, or even what type of model you should be working on. So for companies that have reached that scale, we have a tier that's called Premier, where we mostly focus on how do we help them connect with customers. So I always say that startups need mostly three things. They need money, they need customers, and they need the best technical talent. Those are the three problems that companies always are reaching out to me, at least. And so when a company reaches certain scale, where we can help the most is with those introductions and kind of like helping them go to market. So meet great customers. And we have a lot of different ways that we do that. Some of the ways are more related to, like, are more programmatic, so to speak. We have a flagship event that's called GTC, GPU Technology Conference, and during the event, we create a lot of different opportunities for big enterprise customers to meet our favorite Inception members. And sometimes things are less programmatic. So that's I spend all of my time thinking and working and talking to startups. So when it's a little bit like matchmaking, right? Like when I see there's a good match between one of the companies I'm chatting with and one of our NVIDIA's big enterprise customers, we make those introductions and those things happen. Okay, Ozzy, great. I was going to touch on the question that just got asked, but you are asking for a little bit more of context around that question. I think the question was more related, and maybe we can touch on that a little bit, since I think it's interesting, is I think the question is, okay, how much money does it take for someone that's thinking about solving a problem, leveraging AI, machine learning to actually have a working model? And I know it's a very broad question, and there are many ways of answering, but maybe you and I can spend a couple of minutes bouncing off ideas around that question.
Yeah, so to take that frame of essentially what is the cost to go from sort of ideation, 0 to a running model, I know this is going to be potentially kind of a dissatisfying answer, but it very much depends. Depends on the complexity of the model you're trying to build, what you mean to serve with it. So it would really depend on whether you are using something like a pre-trained model, something that might already be built to classify, or building something from scratch. There are numerous examples out there of really simple models. Probably one that most everyone has seen around is used for essentially the kind of hello world of this would be like wine prediction, predicting prices, or the old sort of deprecated sepal length for different flowers. So it really depends on the case. For a simple model of that sort, running something like that in production, with the benefit of cloud credits, whether they're from Inception or say an incubator like AWS, would essentially be free. You can run a straightforward model of that sort on a very small instance type. You wouldn't necessarily need any acceleration to get something of that sort going.
Yeah.
Does that answer the? Go ahead, Matthias.
No, I was going to say I completely agree with you. At the minimum today there's something called AutoML, or which are no-code platforms where you can build and deploy pre-trained models. So that means that there's a data set that is available for you, and then you can fine-tune that data set with your own data and kind of like create a basic computer vision model. And something like that is extremely affordable. But again, then the question is, okay, how is that helping, or how is that solving a business challenge or a business problem that you have, right? But I concur with Ozzy, and I guess my addition is that I encourage you to check what's called AutoML or no-code solutions for machine learning, where the cost and the effort that it takes to have something running is extremely low.
Yeah, so maybe to take another one from the chat from, I think, 327, question about for management strategy consulting companies leveraging NVIDIA to assist clients to scale. There'd be a couple of ways to go about this. If your startup is essentially management strategy consulting, and the work you are doing is accelerated, if you are building tools, say you're making a proprietary model that you are running your customer data through, making predictions for them, this is certainly the sort of thing that such a company doing that work could benefit from joining Inception. And if that were to be successful, this is something that could then become a partnership. I don't know exactly what the terms would be to sort of graduate from being incubated to more of a strategic partner. But that's the way I would look at it. Not so much a pass-through, but certainly we want to enable the work your company or your consultancy would be doing, so long as it is accelerated.
That's great. Thanks, Ozzy. And so there's another question around, does NVIDIA provide affordable AI systems for targeted marketing and customer product discovery for an e-commerce platform? And I can take a stab at it. Number one, kind of like targeted marketing could mean many things, but one thing that comes to mind is there's a NVIDIA framework that's called NVIDIA Merlin. I'm taking notes of some of these things, and I can share all these links with everyone here. But NVIDIA Merlin is basically a recommender system. So in a way, all these things, when I think about targeted marketing, it means, okay, who's the customer most likely to buy this product, or if someone has checked out this specific product, which other product we should be also showing to them. So that's what when it comes to recommender system, that's when it comes to mine, and it's very much related to targeted marketing. So yes, the answer is yes. We recently launched a platform, a framework, sorry, that's called NVIDIA Merlin, that basically it's a GPU accelerated recommender system.
Jumping between the two chats here. I'll jump on the one at 3:30, GPU improvements for power and resources. I wouldn't say specific to blockchain or crypto mining, but in general, with each new generation of NVIDIA GPUs, the aim is higher performance, lower power, generally smaller package. Some of the things that I think are probably most interesting in the newest iterations here, particularly for data center products, so things like multi-instance GPU. So you can actually share a single GPU. You can partition it for multiple types of workloads. And that opens up the possibility to use, say, a single device in a way that's more efficient. So you can run, say, one job that takes up 50%, four more that are dividing up what's left. Nothing specific to that application, but I think it just benefits from the growth, the advancements in our GPUs and architecture in general.
Awesome. So there's another question. Would you share some of the no-code apps or platforms that are used in AI and machine learning? Yes, happy to do that. So after this webinar, I'll kind of like compile all the different things that we have discussed, and I will include some of my favorite no-code or low-code applications or frameworks.
Yeah. So last one, 331. Basically a question about helping folks learn data science and have started a company. I would say absolutely, Inception is something that can help here. I wouldn't say that we'd necessarily have resources for, say, refining or incubating the idea here. But one of the big challenges when you're starting out is just plain, access to resources. How do you launch? How do you raise awareness? How do you begin to network? And I think that is something that Inception could certainly help with. So that would be my recommendation. Again, no regrets to sign up and make a request.
Absolutely. And after you have signed up, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll be happy to work with you on that specific question. So another link or resource that we will share after this is my email. So anyone here is welcome to just shoot me an email, and ideally I'd like you guys to get on board the Inception program. So I'll have your information, but after that we should be chatting and scheduling some time to go over your specific challenges. All right, so moving on to next slide. As I said, go to market, access to hardware through the cloud and through on-prem, technical expertise and technical support. And then the other one, the last one I mentioned, is related to opportunities for funding and VC interest. We have a team that is constantly in touch with the overall VC ecosystem. So, kind of like helping them, number one, educating, the VC ecosystem on what's important in AI, but also supporting their portfolio companies. So, and that many times takes almost like the other path where we introduce companies to the overall VC ecosystem. And also NVIDIA has a corporate venture arm, which is called GPU Ventures, and I'm also part of that team. So most times the way we support companies is not necessarily through funding. As I said, there are other ways that we get to support the ecosystem through, go-to-market and technical expertise and hardware. But sometimes, in rare cases, we also invest in some companies, and so those might be companies that we think are extremely important, but no one else is investing in, and need to kind of like we want them to succeed or see the light. So that's I can also send the link to our GPU Venture site, and if there is any interest there in getting in touch with that team, you will be asked to share your deck, and the team will review it. And if there's interest or a good fit for what we're doing, they will get in touch. So I will make sure to share that link with everyone here as well. One of the things that I always like to explain people as they think about NVIDIA, but this actually applies to many of the big companies that you will encounter in your startup journey. So I wish I would have understood this when I was running my own company, which is kind of like what I call the NVIDIA pipeline. So what are the different stages of kind of like a partnership with NVIDIA? And the way I think about it is that you usually start with the Inception team. So that's the early stage companies team, the team that kind of like engages with very early stage companies. And once the companies are mature enough, they get handed over, so to speak, or they kind of like, we start working with our developer relations team, which is basically the team that works with any company that's kind of like developing on top of NVIDIA hardware and software products, right? So that could be a top, a Fortune 500 company, or it could be a company in some other country, or a small company and a big company. So any company kind of like goes through our developer relations program. And then I would say the last stage in that pipeline is the industry team. So NVIDIA has different industry teams which are kind of like focused on healthcare and retail and e-commerce and design and architecture and industrials and whatnot. So, and the reason why NVIDIA and most of these companies have industry teams is that the language that you speak and the way you engage with someone that's on the retail industry is extremely different than the way you engage and talk to someone that is in the healthcare business, right? So in that sense, in the end goal is kind of like starts very concentrated with Inception, but in the end it kind of like gets distributed to all these industry teams. So I felt like it would be useful for everyone here as they're kind of like going through their startup journey to kind of like understand what's that pipeline many times that startups and companies go through when they partner with a company like NVIDIA. Right, so we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I encourage everyone to apply to Inception. As I said, Inception is a free to join program. There's no fine letter, and there's nothing hidden here. It's just our way of engaging with everyone that's interested in developing applications on top of our platforms. So apply, and this will be routed to myself and my team, and basically from there you will have access to all of the resources we just mentioned. Yeah, so that's a little bit it. Here there's a contact email that you can reach out to inceptionprogram@nvidia.com, but I will be happy to also share my own email. Dennis, I'm sure we will find a way to kind of like reach out to all the attendees and get my email sent to them. So if you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me. We have, let's open up some time for questions. There's one question from Will. Are the DLI courses primarily for software engineers? I'm happy to answer that one. I'm not a software engineer, and I have taken a bunch of DLI courses that have been extremely useful for me. So the answer is no. And this is a little bit like choose your own adventure. There's some courses that are if you're not an advanced, not even just software engineer, someone that's been working with machine learning for quite some time, are going to be really hard for you to understand. And there's some courses, one that comes to mind is called Introduction to Fundamentals of Deep Learning, and that course has a little bit of kind of like technical things, but overall it's very friendly for someone that's not a software engineer.
And if anybody wants to ask questions live, just raise your hand and I'll unmute your mic. Okay, we got a question. Go ahead, Marlena. Marlena, do you have a question? No, maybe not.
Audio issue.
Adar?
Hi, Dennis. Hi, Matthias. Thank you for having this webinar. So my question is, if you're a startup that's building on using the Unity game engine, is that the sort of startup that Inception might consider?
Yes. So the answer is yes. We will consider. You're welcome to apply and join the program. Candidly, I think that you will have access to a lot of benefits that are more related. So, for example, GTC, the GPU Technology Conference, we offer either discounts or access to exclusive sessions through Inception, and some of those sessions are related to gaming. So you will have take on some of those benefits. I would think that the core use case is more related to companies doing AI and data science, but there's a lot going on there, and we're actually expanding more and more to companies develop on the Unity engine, and sometimes you can use the I know a company that I've been chatting with that uses the Unity engine for architecture, and they're kind of like been working in kind of like real time, like ray tracing, basically for kind of like in architecture. So that's a company that comes to mind that maybe is in a similar position like yours, and they have definitely taken advantage of Inception.
Thank you.
So we have a little bit of a lull. I have a question. So Matthias, you mentioned that this is a free program. You mentioned it a couple of times. And I'm thinking, what AI ML business can I start to leverage these free resources? And somebody asked what stage you would accept people into the program. The idea stage, or do they have to have a little bit of traction?
I can answer that one. So I would think, so number one, they don't need to have traction. So traction as kind of like proof of concept or kind of like paying customers. The answer is no. We want to work with you way earlier. When it's just an idea, more than you're not welcome to join, I think that you will not take advantage of most of the things that NVIDIA has to offer, so to speak. If it's just an idea, you're not going to be doing computation. If it's just an idea, there's nothing to kind of like go to market. What I would think is that if it's just an idea and you need more of the technical training, you can benefit from the DLI courses. So that's one way that even as an idea, Inception is kind of useful.
Right. And a quick follow-up to that is, if I don't have a startup, but I'm very much interested in using the resources and leveraging the program, are there any resources for me with NVIDIA, or do I have to attach myself to a startup?
Got it. So Inception is NVIDIA's program for startups. So yes, you need to attach yourself to a startup. One of the simple requirements when to join Inception is that you need to have a company email. So you need to have a domain that you have created for your own company, so to speak, whatever it is. So the answer is yes. Sometimes I tell people, so in the NVIDIA has also a program that is related or associated with the research community. So some people are kind of like, PhD candidates, or they're doing their masters or undergrad and whatnot. There are ways to access NVIDIA benefits through our higher education program. I can also include that link in the list of resources we can share later. But that would be, that's one option of another way of accessing some of NVIDIA's benefits. But to recap, for Inception, you need to kind of like be working on a company, on a startup. Ozzy, please, if there's anything you want to add.
Yeah. One thing I might add to the question there about say you want to start a company. A thing that I find can work really well with this is technology is really one part of this. By starting with domain expertise, whatever your domain is, and this doesn't have to be technological, take something that you understand well, look at where it can improve, or the really valuable things are the things that you have to do, but say they are difficult to do, or they're done poorly today. And if you can identify something that feels like that, you almost certainly have a viable business there. One of the things that I learned over and over again in working in a startup, working with other startups, working with very large companies, is that having that specific expertise, being close to a problem, lets you understand it in a way that folks who are doing engineering or who have a few degrees distance from it never really can. So regardless of what it is you're doing or what your background is in, if you're dealing with medical records, if you're working in a hardware store, whatever it is, there's almost certainly some problem that you understand in a very intuitive way that technology applied the right way could help with, and you're going to be in the best position to do that, or to understand where that opportunity is.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you saying, Ozzy, is don't let the fact that you don't understand the technology prevent you from solving a real life problem.
Yeah, absolutely not. I've been in technology for let me see, going on 24 years now. Technology generally is not the hard problem, and in the places where it is, just to plug it again, we have programs like this. Like, this is the goal of Inception. We're saying, if you have an idea, if there's something you're doing, let us help you do it better. Let us perhaps show you a way to do it faster, more efficiently.
Gotcha. And it looks like we have Marlena back. Welcome. You have a question?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I think between you, Dennis, and Ozzy, you basically hit the home run in the area of questions that I have. So I will definitely just add on more context. So I was the one who asked more of the management consulting question. And like you said, identifying a gap or a problem in whatever industry, and where we are right now with this new technology, AI and all that, there's really potential to really disrupt any industry with AI. The issue that I have here is that because this is an opportunity, I have lots of ideas. I'm good in research and identifying problems, and I have the ideas, but I can't start a business for every single idea. I can't go into education. I can't go into healthcare. So naturally, leveraging my project management background and business analyst background, I'm really good at really coming up with a plan or a proposal to help build this technology, which as a startup, as I thought, was to just really help clients really develop this model of technology to market in their respective industry. The problem is I don't have the technology. So coming to this meeting today, where it basically seems very similar, it's really that question that I have, like, well, if the technology is there and NVIDIA has it, then how can I really leverage that on my end? Because I can come up with many solution ideas to try out and implement or to just work with, but I don't necessarily have like a solid, I don't know how to ask this question. It's like, I have ideas of what to do and how we can leverage technology, but I just can't create all these different businesses. I have to stick to one. So naturally, having a consultant would best fit me. So I guess I'm trying to understand, like, what would be the best route for me, a person who wants to be an AI, who wants to have an AI startup and leverage that technology.
I can give this a shot. So I have a couple of thoughts on this. One, I absolutely, wouldn't count anything out or de-emphasize it at all. Project management is absolutely a skill for any startup. It was when I was hiring for teams of solution engineers and architects, it was really the hardest role to fill and probably the most valuable. I can be great at serializing on hard problems, but if you give me 3 things to juggle at once, I'm going to fall apart and forget 2 of them. So having people who have those skills that I don't are really essential. But in addition to that, I think there's a lot of value in just getting a conceptual understanding of these technologies. So like one of the things that was mentioned earlier with the fundamentals courses, these are very approachable courses that it helps to have some background in technology and coding, but they're the kind of thing that you can benefit from just by sort of running through and basically going as far as you can to understand more of the concepts, get more of a picture of the way the technology is used, as opposed to the skills you'd need to specifically implement it. So I'd say it's a useful thing to build that kind of base to sort of understand the verbs, the terms, the concepts, and that'll help a ton when you go into either starting something or seeking to work with a company that works in these areas. Certainly, if I'm looking for a PM in my data science startup and someone has that conceptual understanding, they're immediately going to stick out over folks who may have similar project management skills, but don't have that sort of conceptual founding and basis. So definitely recommend DLI and just sort of keep at it. I think this is a technology in an industry that isn't going to go anywhere. So there's absolutely plenty of time.
All right. Speaking of time, we don't have plenty left. So one more question, if anybody has one.
I think there was a question around which card is usually used, GTX or RTX, that either Ozzy or myself, we can take a stab at wherever works for. Okay, I'll start and then also you can chime in. So the unfortunate answer is that it depends. It all depends on what's your workload, what you need to achieve, where you need to achieve. So both GTX and RTX cards are what I would call consumer level cards. So they're amazing tools for kind of like doing data science and some kind of low intensity machine learning training and inference. Once you go to kind of like having something at scale in production or kind of like have a higher demand, for your model, that will not cut it. But so the short answer is that it all depends on what you are trying to achieve. In general, once a company kind of like, is in production, so any startup that is it's doing serious machine learning and deep learning, they will go to something that's above the GTX or RTX level graphic cards.
All right, and with that, we are just at the top of the hour. I'd like to thank Matthias and Ozzy again for the time. This was very interesting. I'm intrigued by anything AI and machine learning. So now you got me wanting to start a new company. But like Marlena, you can't start a company for everything. So maybe we can collaborate, Marlena. We can come up with something and make a lot of money with NVIDIA. But this will be posted to our the Blackson Technology Foundation YouTube page sometime within the next 24 hours. Check back for the playback, and you can reach out to me at dschultz_ny@blacksontechnology.net, or visit our website and send us a comment if you have any questions. But definitely feel free to join us for future events next month, February. We're going to have a series of events for Black Tech Month. So check back the site, check the events page. We'll have basically 3 or 4 events a week. So we encourage you to stop back by and look forward to having you guys participate in the future. So thanks again. Thanks everyone for joining, and have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.